Hi, this is Kayla with 5 Features. Today we're meeting with the Northwest Arkansas Council to discuss the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine.
I'm David Fortner, Vice President of Operations at Mercy, and we're discussing today vaccines, as we have been for several weeks and really months now, but just continuing the effort to educate the community about the safety of vaccines, the effectiveness of vaccines, and really just continue that awareness that vaccines are still available. We've still got opportunity and access for people to get vaccinated against COVID. Yeah, there have been lots of efforts to stand up vaccine clinics around the area in Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas Council in particular, back about February, started hosting events throughout the area in Benton County, in Washington County, dozens of events at this point. Encouraged to say that given over 30,000 vaccines at this point to the community, but really the Northwest Arkansas Council served as kind of the organizer of several groups around the area, from healthcare institutions, Mercy, Northwest Health, Washington Regional, UAMS, Children's Hospital, the VA. Everybody has been involved in these efforts, and some of our private sector and business. J.B. Hunt, for instance, has offered their locations to serve as a location to have clinics. So really been a community-wide effort, and that was the goal, to work together as a community to make sure we had access for anyone and everyone that wanted to receive a vaccine. In addition, Community Clinic has helped support vaccine events, and Whole Health Institute also involved in making sure that we've got access to vaccine across the region. There has been questions about the vaccines and the way they work, particularly because these are relatively new vaccines. I say relatively, so at this point, obviously we've been given vaccines for months throughout the United States now, but the major vaccines we have, Pfizer and Moderna products, are mRNA vaccines. And so real high level, the way that works, the vaccine contains genetic material, which is the mRNA. It codes for the spike protein that everybody's heard so much about that's on the coronavirus. That then is presented to your body. Your body says, I don't know what that spike protein is, and creates antibodies against the spike protein. You then have antibodies against the coronavirus. So if you were to get infected with the SARS-CoV-2 or the coronavirus, your body would recognize that as foreign and would fight back. Really important to note, these mRNA vaccines are just that, mRNA. They are not DNA vaccines. They do not alter your DNA as a recipient of the vaccine. The mRNA uses your own cellular processes to mount this immune response, but it never goes into the nucleus of your cell, which is really where your DNA's stored. So that was one of the myths out there early on. Can this change my DNA? It cannot. The other thing that's important about mRNA vaccines in particular, they don't contain any live viral components. So you can't get COVID-19 from getting the vaccines. They really are very safe. The J&J vaccine works just a little bit different. It's the same idea. There's genetic material, but the way that they get it into your cells is using an inactivated virus. It's a virus that causes a common cold. But again, it can't make you sick because the virus itself is inactivated, but that's just sort of the vessel that helps to get that genetic material. So the vaccines use your own body's biology to create an immune response. The COVID-19 mRNA vaccines are the first mRNA vaccines that we've had actually in use in therapy in the United States. mRNA technology as a therapeutic agent has actually been studied for decades. So the idea of mRNA as a vaccine is not new, but these COVID-19 vaccines are the first ones that actually use this technology in human population. Right now, for the Pfizer vaccine in particular, anybody that's 12 and older is eligible to receive the vaccine. For the Moderna vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, it's those that are 18 and older. So high level, really there's not anybody who is ineligible to receive the vaccine except for small children at this point. And that's really just because we don't have the data yet, although that is being studied. The council is certainly wanting to encourage those that are in the 12 to 15 age group that are now eligible to get the vaccine to come out to the event. So We would ask any of that group, or really anybody that's a minor and under 18, that they do have a parent accompany them to help sign the consent form and be there present. Yeah, so the COVID vaccines followed the exact same process that any other vaccine or any other drug for that purpose would come to market or be approved. So the clinical trials, in general, there's always at least 3 phases of clinical trials. The COVID vaccines went through all of that same process. This began early last year. In the phase 3, which is the last kind of phasing of clinical study for, again, any drug or vaccine, you typically would have at a minimum around 30,000 people in that study. For the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, they exceeded 40,000 participants. And of course, at this point, we've given across the United States more than 260 million doses of COVID vaccines. So we've got a lot of data and clinical data about the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. But it is important to note, no steps were skipped in the study and development of these vaccines and the review of the data. It's a great question that people ask about if they've had COVID previously, should they still get vaccinated? And absolutely the answer is yes. The only caveat to that, obviously it makes sense, if somebody is acutely infected with COVID-19, so they're in that kind of 10-day quarantine period where they're still experiencing symptoms, we want them to stay away, stay home, stay away from people. But once you get out of that period where you can then appropriately, mask, get out, we want you to still get vaccinated. In all of the vaccine efforts, we certainly don't want access to inhibit anybody. So at this point, we've had lots of clinics where people are coming to the clinic site. We also want to make it available, particularly from the Northwest Arkansas Council's perspective and their efforts. We can take the show on the road and bring the clinics to you too. So willing to work with churches, schools, employer groups, any of those entities that want to reach out to the council. There's an opportunity to take the vaccine to that patient population as well. There has been question about the cost of the COVID vaccine. So the most important piece, the vaccine itself is free to the patient. There is no out-of-pocket cost to any patient to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. If someone has insurance, the provider of the vaccine, whether that's a hospital, whether that's a community pharmacy or a physician clinic, they can bill the provider or the insurance company for the administration fees associated with the vaccine, but that is only to an insurance company. There is no bill directly to a patient, and again, no out-of-pocket expense. And don't let that stop. If even uninsured patients can get the vaccine and have access to the vaccine, expense, finances, costs should not inhibit anybody from getting the vaccine. It is completely free to the patient. We really have to think about vaccination as an individual decision and discussion, but on a community level as well. And so it's really important that everybody get vaccinated, and the speed with which we do that matters. Viruses, by their nature, they mutate, they change. We hear a lot of talk in the news about variants to this coronavirus. That's going to continue as long as the virus has an opportunity to infect and to change. The way to stop that or prevent that is to get as many people vaccinated as fast as possible. That would include even those that have a low risk, really, of bad outcomes with COVID-19. So we do know that, typically speaking, the younger population, even if infected, do fairly well. You may feel bad, you may feel like you have the flu, but you'll recover and maybe avoid hospitalization, and obviously we want to avoid deaths in COVID-19. But it's important that all age groups get vaccinated because, again, it's that idea around herd immunity that we hear about. We've got to get a significant number of the community vaccinated so that this virus does not have a place to go or doesn't have a host and hopefully eventually dies out.
Thanks so much for watching. For more information, you can visit nwacouncil.org.